I call this Altoona City Council meeting to order Monday, February 12th at 6 p.m. Now, pause for a moment of silent prayer. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Beatty,
Here.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
Here.
Councilwoman Klinich,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ellis,
Here.
Councilman Ickes is absent, Councilman Kelly,
Here.
Mayor Pacifico.
Here. Before we open up the floor for public comment, I need to announce that we had two executive sessions last month, one after the last council meeting and one after the work session. Both were for personnel. And with that, we'll open the floor for public comment. If anyone would like to address council, you may come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to under 5 minutes. The floor is now open.
Hi, my name is Pam Mitchell. I live at 307 Cherry Avenue. I am a resident of the city. Here today in reference to the Gable Buildings incident. I was one of the co-managers handling the situation at the building that led to its condemnation and hopefully subsequent opening this week. I would just like to come here and address City Council in regards to my experience in dealing with the city throughout this process. As Mr. Finn is aware, we had employed counsel, and the situation led to that factor was that whenever, after certain events took place, and I contacted Ms. Brown at the Codes Inspection Office and stated that we would like to have a meeting that Wednesday morning after it was condemned Tuesday night. So she came to my office along with Mr. Free and James, one of the code inspectors, I believe. And so during this conversation, there was some back and forth in reference to what had happened and their concerns and a lot of the unknowns that they had in reference to the building. And at that time, she was stating that utilities had to be shut off immediately due to the, quote, imminent danger that the building posed. And I implored her to pause that action in regards to the additional damage it could cause the building, not to mention the fact of my business, what I do, that I could not, I mean, you can't just flip a switch. I deal with, I have an internet company, I do website design, I have website servers, and I have email servers running in my office as well as DNS servers. So I service over 100 businesses in the region. And so, you know, we discussed that, some of the risk there and some of the issues and what that would cause. And she had stated that, she asked me how much time I needed. And I said, well, 72-hour minimum, but if you can give me more than a week, that would be appreciated. She said, well, I'll have to go back, talk to my superiors, talk to the mayor, her boss, the city manager, so forth. And whenever she got back, she called about an hour later and stated that, you know, they had to go forth and shut off the utilities. And I said, well, what about at least the 72 hours you provided me? And she said, well, I may be able to give you till Friday afternoon. There's no guarantees. I thought that was, at that point, that's when I lost all trust with the city. And then, you know, the next day when I stated to her that, you know, we had an electrical engineer there that afternoon, talked to her Thursday, and stated we had an electrical engineer that day, and that they can testify to the fact and attest to the fact that all electricity can be isolated to the affected areas. And of course, there was some shock that we had someone there that quick, which in all honesty, we were very blessed, and also kind of surprised someone came out that early. But we did. So Thursday, we were having a conversation, and I said, can we have another meeting? And can we, talk about the fact that we had an electrical engineer here, and he attests that and can provide a written statement saying that all affected areas could be isolated. And at that time, she said, well, we talked to so-and-so, and as she mentioned, she talked to the city attorney, and I said, well, who is that? Because I was aware of there could be a potential conflict of interest depending on the attorney that she called. And you can find that name on our website. Absolute pettiness. So at that point, I hung up on her, and my next call was the attorney. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware of exactly how, and that's just the beginning of how things kind of went downhill throughout this whole process. And I do lay the defeat at this office and a department head, because that's who I dealt with. And the people that showed up in my office on Wednesday were not the ones who were at the building on Tuesday when the red tag was placed. So I was a little confused by that, but I figured, okay, whatever the policy is, I'm not privy to that, but I wanted this council to know why that communication went sour and the attorneys had to get involved. So, and I'm down to less than a minute, but I thank you for your time. And I will be filing formal complaints. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you folks want to say something?
I'm Amy Kegler. I just wanted to make a comment, I guess, about the rehabilitation authority for the homes. I was able to go into actually a home that was my home when I was growing up and got to see what it was like, and Mr. Beatty had actually taken us through the home, my brother and I, and he was telling us about what he's trying to do to get the homes rehabilitated in the city as opposed to tearing them down. And I think it's a fabulous idea to do that and not just tear these homes down, and you lose your tax base, you lose everything. You're not replacing the homes, you can't build on these properties. It's just a waste to leave them sit empty. You have these empty lots, nobody can afford to buy them, you can't do anything with them, and I just think it's a great idea. And that's kind of what I have.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close the floor and move into the resolutions.
Item A is approving the minutes of the Altoona City Council meeting held Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Item B is appointing Drew Brennan to the Altoona City Planning Commission for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2029. Item C is authorizing the appointment of Finance Director Jim Garrett and Deputy Finance Director Wendy Boyles to serve as the City of Altoona liaisons and authorize representatives for the express purpose of requesting and receiving any and all confidential tax information from Berkheimer, the appointed collector of local tax for the city. Item D is approving election polling place agreements between the county and on behalf of the Board of Election and the city for polling place locations at the City of Altoona Training Facility and Council Chambers and Fire Stations 1, 2, and 3 for the 2024 primary and general elections, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item E is approving the purchase of an emergency generator from Shadler Yesco Distribution of Harrisburg through the CoStars program for the Police Department addition and renovation project in the amount of $65,600 payable from ARPA funds, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all contract documents. Item F is authorizing an easement agreement between the city and 2521 Industrial Avenue LLC for the purpose of construction, installation, repair, and maintenance of storm sewer lines as shown on the easement plan, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item G is authorizing an easement agreement between the city and Mountain Research LLC for the purpose of construction, installation, repair, and maintenance of storm sewer lines as shown on the easement plan, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item H is authorizing an easement agreement between the city and Christy Snyder for the purpose of construction, installation, repair, and maintenance of storm sewer lines as shown on the easement plan, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item I is authorizing the filing of a declaration of taking for the purpose of obtaining an easement for property owned by Tammy Munn with respect to the Spring Run Stream Remediation Project, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item J is authorizing the filing of a declaration of taking for the purpose of obtaining an easement for property owned by Keith Walters and Karen Walters with respect to the Spring Run Stream Remediation Project, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item K is awarding the Margaret Avenue Training Facility Roof Coating Project to Clark Contractors of Bedford in the amount of $113,076.83 payable from ARPA funds, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item L is awarding the Downtown Safety Improvements Project to CH&D Enterprises of New Stanton, PA, in the amount of $453,331.80 payable from ARPA funds, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item M is accepting the PennDOT policies and procedures for consultant municipal engineer selection process for professional engineering services for transportation and other projects not completed by the city engineering department, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute Appendix 7A policy and procedures for consultant selection for submission to PennDOT. Item N is awarding supplemental stormwater maintenance services to Geyer Brothers of New Enterprise in the amount of $21,248 payable from ARPA funds, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item O is authorizing a communications right-of-way license agreement between the city and Zito Media Communications for construction, installation, maintenance, and operation of telecommunication facilities within the city's right-of-way for the purpose of providing telecommunication services and/or information services as defined in the agreement, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item P is authorizing a communications right-of-way license agreement between the city and Lumos Networks of West Virginia doing business as Segra for construction, installation, maintenance, and operation of telecommunication facilities within the city's right-of-way for the purpose of providing telecommunication services and/or information services as defined in the agreement, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute all documents and the city clerk to attest to same. Item Q is approving a repository bid in the amount of $100 submitted by the Redevelopment Authority of Altoona for property located at 327 to 29 Wapsanonik Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Item R is approving a repository bid in the amount of $60 submitted by Eileen Porta of 2332 4th Street for property located at 331 to 33 Wapsanonik Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Item S is approving a repository bid in the amount of $60 submitted by Eileen Porta for property located at 327 to 29 Wapsanonik Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Item T is approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 2400 10th Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Item U is approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 3127 to 33 7th Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Item V is approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 1900-02 10th Street, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Item W is approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 2005-07 3rd Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Are there any additions or anything, deletions or anything that needs to be pulled for separate vote?
Linda, can you pull STUVW for a separate vote, please?
Okay. Okay, I'm going to call for the consent vote on all items excluding S, T, U, V, and W. So it'll be A through R. Councilman Beatty,
Yes.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
Yes.
Councilwoman Klinich,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ellis.
Yes.
Councilman Ickes is absent, Councilman Kelly,
Yes.
and Mayor Pacifico.
Yes.
And the consent vote passes 6-0. And then on item S, which was approving a repository bid in the amount of $60 submitted by Eileen Porta for property located at 327 to 29 Wapsononic Avenue, further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Councilman Beatty,
No.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
No.
Councilwoman Klinich,
No.
Vice Mayor Ellis.
No.
Councilman Ickes is absent. Councilman Kelly,
No.
Mayor Pacifico.
No.
And the vote does not pass, 0-6. And then we have item T, which is approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 2400 10th Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Councilman Beatty,
No.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
No.
Councilwoman Klinich,
No.
Vice Mayor Ellis.
No.
Councilman Ickes is absent. Councilman Kelly,
No.
Mayor Pacifico.
No.
And the vote does not pass, 0-6. We have item U, which is approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 3127 to 33 7th Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Councilman Beatty,
No.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
No.
Councilwoman Klinich,
No.
Vice Mayor Ickes, Vice Mayor Ellis.
Ellis.
Sorry. I apologize. Councilman Ickes is absent. Councilman Kelly,
No.
Mayor Pacifico.
No.
Vote does not pass, 0-6. Then we have item U, which is approving a repository bid. Item V, approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 1900 to 02 10th Street, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Councilman Beatty,
No.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
No.
Councilwoman Klinich,
No.
Vice Mayor Ellis.
No.
Councilman Ickes is absent. Councilman Kelly,
No.
Mayor Pacifico.
No.
The vote does not pass, 0-6. We have item W, approving a repository bid in the amount of $25 submitted by Michael Balmer of York for property located at 2005 to 07 3rd Avenue, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the taxing district form. Councilman Beatty,
No.
Councilman Butterbaugh,
No.
Councilwoman Klinich,
No.
Vice Mayor Ellis.
No.
Councilman Ickes is absent. Councilman Kelly,
No.
Mayor Pacifico.
No.
And the vote does not pass, 0-6. We have two ordinances on the agenda for, one is for introduction. The first one is an ordinance of the City of Altoona Blair County, Pennsylvania, which amends Chapter 700 Vehicles and Traffic of the Altoona City Code, particularly Article 7, Handicap Parking Spaces, Section 700-26, General Specifications to clarify the specifications for handicap parking spaces, to provide a reaffirmation of the remainder of Chapter 700, and to provide a repealer, savings clause, and an effective date. Is there a councilman willing to introduce this ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
This ordinance is introduced by Councilman Beatty. We have a second ordinance on the agenda, which is for adoption. It was introduced by Councilman Butterbaugh. It's an ordinance of the City of Altoona, Blair County, Pennsylvania, which amends Chapter 690 Utilities of the Altoona City Code, particularly Section 690-2, Statement of Facilities Owned and or Maintained, Section 690-5, Application for a Permit to Erect Poles, Section 690-9, License Fee, Section 690-11, Right of Certain Utility Companies to Construct Underground Systems in Streets and Sidewalks, Section 690-12, Approval of Plans of Proposed System, Granting of Permission to Construct System, 690-17, Right of City to Inspect and Supervise Systems, Furnish Desired Information, and Section 690-22, Violations and Penalties to clarify the applicability of Chapter 690 and the penalties for violation of Chapter 690, to provide a reaffirmation of the remainder of Chapter 690, to provide a repealer, savings clause, and an effective date. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Vice Mayor, was that the Vice Mayor? This ordinance was moved for adoption by Councilman Butterbaugh and seconded by Vice Mayor Ellis. I'll call for the vote. Councilman Beatty.
Yes.
Councilman Butterbaugh.
Yes.
Councilwoman Klinich.
yes,
Vice Mayor Ellis.
Yes.
Councilman Ickes is absent. Councilman Kelly.
Yes.
Mayor Pacifico.
Yes.
And the vote passes 6-0.
All right, moving right along with city manager updates.
I have nothing at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Council discussion items. Councilman Kelly.
Mayor, I don't have anything to offer tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Butterbaugh.
All good here.
Councilman Ellis.
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and read this statement so I keep my thoughts together. To begin, I thank the responsible property owners and landlords who have invested in our city for the right reasons and who follow the rules. We encourage responsible investors to make Altoona part of their plans. Over the past year, our community has made significant progress impacting and protecting our citizens from unscrupulous landlords and delinquent property owners. The success of the past year is a tribute to the work of our staff and their partnership with the great work of several social service agencies. Moving into 2024, we as a council need to ensure our employees have the necessary tools and support to continue with rental inspection license suspensions of delinquent, non-compliant landlords. Also, to put in place clearer requirements, if necessary, to require property owners to be more accountable. To many property owners in our city insulate themselves by surrogates, managers, agents, and others, resulting in city staff spending unnecessary time attempting to resolve issues. I don't work at City Hall all day, every day, but I'm sick and tired of the absent, money-hungry property owners doing business here with no exposure to or accepting the responsibility of for the conditions of their properties or the behavior of their surrogates, managers, and agents. Again, I thank the responsible property owners and landlords who have invested in our city for the right reasons and who follow the rules. We encourage responsible investors to make Altoona part of their plans.
Thank you. Councilman Beatty.
I would just like to thank all the people that work in the city, the people that responded to Gables and did your job. And I think you should be commended for what you did. Thank you.
Councilwoman Klinich.
I just want to thank everybody for, with my orientation. I just know that the different departments that took time to show me around, to make me feel very welcome. And the one thing that I found in doing my orientation is how much each department cares about this city. And I just appreciate all of you, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to questions from the media.
Thank you. Dave, was your statement directed at the Gables situation particularly?
My statement was not directed to anything specifically, Bill, but there has been a buildup of multiple issues where property owners who are not coming to stand before their responsibilities. And, you know, we went through through this rental inspection suspensions. We have other situations where too much of, we don't have enough staff to begin with, and too much of our staff is being spent running around in circles, dealing with people who don't have the final say to take responsibility for things, and that has to change.
Well, how would that change if an owner is out of town and does?
We'll make them responsible to come to meetings with our staff or with our mayor. If we have to put it, you know, we'll defer to the solicitor after this meeting, but I would like to see that it's put somewhere in writing whenever they do these rental agreements or property agreement, whatever we can do, but we cannot continue to run in circles and use resources of this city to run just completely in circles and not get anything accomplished.
Do you mean you think it ought to be a requirement, an ordinance requirement, that the actual owner appear in person to
If
meetings
there's
like
an
that?
issue with a property, there should be a requirement that they appear at a meeting with whoever asked for it, the city manager, the codes people, the fire people. I mean, we're talking about public safety here, right? We're not playing games. It's about public safety, the safety of the people who live here, pay taxes here, and we're responsible for that. And we're responsible to the people who fulfill their responsibilities and are good property owners, good landlords.
Mhm.
And this is as much to protect them as it is anything else.
If a representative who is here has the authority given by the owner to make decisions, would that be satisfactory for you, or?
Yes, and in many cases that works, and it works well. I think you can speak to the staff about that. But the ones where it doesn't work, this is what I'm talking about, Bill, all right? We're spending way too much time dealing with these people.
So as long as the representative can make decisions, is
I
what you're
believe
saying?
the way I look at this, the ordinance is constructed that people who don't live here, that own property here, that are in rental, particularly and under the rental license, rental ordinance, they can assign an agent. In fact, they're required to assign an agent or a surrogate. And if that person's doing the job, then there's no issues. There would be no reason to us to require the landlord to show up for meetings. But we're getting run around and we're getting things not done and buildings are falling down, then we need to have something in place to require these people to show up here.
Okay. And if I understood you right, you're going to recommend that be put into an ordinance?
I'm gonna ask the solicitor, which I guess we're doing here in public, to research that, to see what we can do. And if there's any changes to be made to the rental inspection program to require that, then we're gonna do that too.
The rental inspection program only applies to residences, right? Or am I
Yes.
wrong about that?
Yes.
Okay. Would anybody care to comment, including Rebecca here, or you, on what Pam Mitchell said about the Gables situation?
Bill, I can just give you kind of a timeline here. Starting on January 26th, 24, I spoke with and then sent a letter to Attorney Adams, basically outlining a roadmap of steps that need to be taken by Bill as owner for purposes of
That would be the 11th Avenue section?
12.
It'd be the 12th
Oh,
Avenue
okay.
side. The steps to attempt to try to get 12th Avenue back to being allowed to have occupancy. These are the steps that are happening. The 11th Avenue side is going to be much more involved, and so right now the focus is on the 12th Avenue side.
Okay.
So, in summary, again, this, the condition of this building, this wasn't something the city created. It wasn't a situation Ms. Mitchell or the other tenants, created. We're just been the ones dealing with it. And, I can certainly understand the frustration with, wanting to get back in as quickly as possible, but at the same time, the city has a responsibility to balance that with the health, safety, and general welfare of the city, its citizens, and the people that work there. Quite frankly, I believe what has occurred over the last couple weeks in working with Attorney Addict, I think shows that the city is willing and does make efforts to facilitate solutions to a problem. And the fact that the utilities were never shut off during that period of time, I think speaks to that. We believe that we've come a long way over just a little over 2 weeks. And it's encouraging that the owner was actually here, alluding to what Vice Mayor Ellis was alluding to. And we're getting some of these issues addressed. It's just unfortunate that those issues could not have been addressed before, what occurred in late January that necessitated the condemnation.
Okay. Anyone else from council want to say anything about that? I guess, Tom, this is for you too. The item O and item S, or resolution O and S, about the communications right-of-way license.
Do you mean O and P?
O and P, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's not anything major, right? That's
No. What that is, Bill, if you'll recall, we revamped and updated the utilities ordinance this past summer, which hadn't been touched in 50 years. We also adopted tonight some further clarifications. And basically, these agreements are kind of the fruits of that progress, of those corrections and updates.
But this is like installation of just one little parcel of.
What it is basically, anytime a company that has telecommunications informations, I guess as the non-engineer, and I call it, like, if you're putting fiber optics into the city right-of-ways, these are the right-of-way agreements that the city requires of those companies. It basically provides a means by which to, regulate that, the manner in which they're put in, and also that the city is made aware as to where all these different facilities of these communications companies are located in the right-of-ways, because that's important to know. If you're ever doing any type of improvements or repairs in a right-of-way, you need to know where this stuff is. So that's what this is. In response to what you mentioned earlier, no, it's not a major deal.
Okay, yeah, I
That's
was
all
wondering,
it
if not a new Comcast type of thing or something like that.
No.
If we didn't do this, it would become a problem, because with the technology evolving as we move from 5G to 6G to 7G and whatever's coming next, or something that may replace that, you start seeing all this apparatus being thrown up everywhere, and if we don't have something in our ordinance to make sure things don't get out of hand, so it's important to have that language updated every so often.
Right. Could somebody, I guess probably you, Tom, again, could somebody explain the PennDOT Consultant Engineering Services resolution? Like, what's that for?
Yeah, why don't you take that, Rob?
Bill, this is just every 5 years, we have to pick a consultant engineer. So this is just allowing the formal process to take place, saying that we're going to go through the process that PennDOT.
Oh, so it's like a housekeeping kind of
Correct.
deal, okay. And then, let's see, regarding the, what are they called, the repository bids? If I am not mistaken, you approved R, but didn't approve S, both of which were from from a local person. Could somebody explain that?
Because S, if you notice, was the same address as Q. So we approved Q for the RA and denied it for the regular bid. And if, Diana, if you want to elaborate further on that, feel free.
Yeah, the RA's interested in the one property that, the woman who lives on the other side of, and I don't have my agenda in front of me to say the addresses, but it ends with 33. She bid on both lots. So basically, we're splitting it down the middle. She's aware of this. Councilman Beatty's spoken with her. So we put a bid in on one lot, and then she's going to go ahead and get the lot next to her house.
Oh, so this is for possible development by the RA?
Potential, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
This meeting is adjourned.